Okay, Newbie Dash. You would think that I'm happy that Rainbow Dash finally achieved her dream of becoming a Wonderbolt. After all, Rainbow Dash is the only pony I have a plushie of. But screw it. Here's my biggest issue with this episode. It doesn't feel like an accomplishment. Let me explain it with a clip from my Rarity Investigates episode that nobody watched.
Now that I think about it, freakouts are quite a staple in her character. But she had one for a good reason. After all, her Wonderbolt career was at risk. It's basically confirmed that Rainbow Dash will become one. Soarin and Spitfire talk of it like it's only a matter of time, and most likely it is. The only reason Rainbow Dash isn't a full-fledged member yet is most likely some sort of formality. They cannot just say, "You are a good flyer, here's your badge." No, you have to be a good flyer, join their academy, pass a written test and serve as a reserve for a certain amount of time. And since it would be anticlimactic to just make her one in a random episode, she'll most likely have to pass one final test in the future.
Jeez, did I really sound that bad back then? No wonder it took me forever to get any subs during Season 5. Anyway, as it seems, I was spot on. The Wonderbolts say at the end that they were waiting for a spot to open so they can make Rainbow Dash 1. And that does make sense, after all. If saving the world and performing a Sonic Rainboom doesn't qualify her, what does? It was kinda anticlimactic like I said it would be. This episode begins with Rainbow Dash becoming a Wonderbolt. That should be her big episode, and the opening scene on its own is great, but this episode is not about her achievement. It's about the fact that Rainbow Dash embarrasses herself after she becomes a Wonderbolt. Rainbow becoming a Wonderbolt should be the high point of an episode, not the introduction. Let me put this in perspective. Imagine the CMC wouldn't have gotten the marks at the end of Crusaders of the Lost Mark, but at the beginning of On Your Marks instead, with no musical number to accompany it. It wouldn't have the same impact, now would it? It just doesn't feel like a triumph. And don't you dare to compare this to Canterlot Boutique. Yes, Rarity got the big news that she can open her boutique at the beginning of that episode, and it came out of nowhere. But buying real estate is not really an accomplishment. The success of her boutique is, in particular, the way she succeeds. The struggle there was about Rarity's drive as an artist, and her triumph is that she got there by following her own roots and not Sassy's business plan, which, in all fairness, was pretty good. So we cheer for Rarity at the end of that episode because she proves that her way is the right one. But while becoming a Wonderbolt certainly is a triumph for Rainbow Dash's character arc, what did she accomplish in this episode in particular? Accepting a stupid nickname. Her triumph of becoming a Wonderbolt is handed to her in the first 2 minutes and it's completely wasted. And now that I think about it, where is Rainbow Dash's song? Twilight and the CMC got an entire music episode for their accomplishments. Rarity got a song about her philosophy that was essential to understand her struggle. But where is a song that tells us how much Rainbow has grown as a character since Season 1? Okay, maybe I'm a little bit too harsh here. I shouldn't complain too much about what could have been, and rather talk about the things we got. So Rainbow Dash becomes a Wonderbolt and she tries to play things cool by stating some useless Wonderbolt facts.
Every time Rainbow Dash tells some Wonderbolt facts, remember she only knows them because Twilight exploited a strange psychological condition.
My old clips come strangely handy today. Anyway, that annoys Spitfire at best, and when she tries to make a cool first impression on the rest of the team, she crashes into a trash can and ends up with the nickname Rainbow Crash, the same name those jerks in Gloucester used to bully her. Well, that seems a little bit lazy to me, but I see the intention. It brings things full circle. This nickname was introduced in the first episode that was truly all about Rainbow Dash. Sonic Rainboom. In that episode we also learned that she is a flight school dropout.
Well, what do we have here?
It's our old friend, Rainbow Crash!
Get kicked out any flight schools lately?
I didn't get kicked out.
Those bullies claim that she was kicked out, but the way Rainbow Dash reacts, it seems more like she quit. Now we combine this with the flashback from this episode that shows Dashy's first day at flight school, and we can assume that they bullied her out. Well, that's an unfortunate implication, but it does give the whole thing some emotional weight and makes her struggle somewhat understandable. I also want to add that the whole conflict with the Wonderbots calling Rainbow Dash that name and everyone else having a nickname does seem somewhat realistic, considering that the Wonderbots are supposed to be a military institution. I never served myself, but seemingly everyone who has says, yeah, that was like my first day in the military. Well, at least it does remind me of a certain movie.
What's your name, scumbag?
Sir, Private Brown, sir!
Bullshit! From now on, you're Private Snowball. Do you like that name?
Sir, yes, sir!
So, the conflict is actually somewhat realistic, and Rainbow Dash's reaction is somewhat understandable. Even the way she acts is completely in character. Yes, Rainbow Dash had several lessons to swallow her ego, but it is still there, so of course she tries to play it cool. But the fact that it is in character doesn't make it any less cringeworthy for me. Not to mention that this is one of those stock episode plots. How many times have you seen this plot? The main character embarrasses himself, gets a stupid nickname and tries to do something else to get a cool one instead, but screws up and people either stick with the name or gives that person an even worse nickname. I hate those episodes because they are all about the main character embarrassing themselves, and the ending is always that the nickname is not a big thing anyway. The fact that I couldn't really laugh about the slapstick in this episode doesn't really help, but this is admittedly subjective. However, I think Rainbow Dash impersonating the rest of the main six is incredibly hilarious. Even though it's completely ludicrous and desperately cringy. I'm not sure why the Wonderbots would think higher of her if she tries to pass off as Fluttershy, but it made me laugh a lot. It also reminds me of my call-up with Rosie.
It's Rarity impersonating Pinkie Pie. That part made me laugh so hard. I would love to see a fan animation of Rarity impersonating the rest of the main six.
It's not Rarity, but this is the next best thing. Anyway, while I think it's hilarious, I also think it's okay to complain that the scene drags out too long and that this joke overstays his welcome after the Applejack impersonation. Though this one is especially hilarious with Ashley Ball trying to sound like Applejack, but not quite. I also do kinda like the resolution with every Wonderbot telling Rainbow Dash about their nicknames. It was predictable, but it made me chuckle, especially the part with Spitfire. Until proven otherwise, I will just assume that her nickname is Clopper. It just goes too well with Soren's Clipper. The true ending scene with Rainbow Dash cleaning up her mess, her just being happy to be a Wonderbot, is quite heartwarming, especially with the last shot mirroring the Wonderbot poster from the very first episode. And I like that she takes responsibility and cleans up the mess she made. Many people complained about the fact that she got off scot-free in Thanks for the Memories, so it's nice to see that she has to deal with consequences this time around. Anyway, let's wrap things up. I want to like this episode. The way the Wonderbots are presented as a military institution seems pretty spot on. No one acts out of character and Rainbow Dash finally becomes a Wonderbot. There are several scenes I actually like a lot on their own, but this episode overall is somewhat cringeworthy for me. From an objective point of view, I cannot find too much wrong this episode, but it should have been about Rainbow Dash's triumph. Instead, it's about her dealing with an embarrassing nickname. I have a personal dislike for episodes that are all about embarrassment. Not to mention that I have seen this nickname plot 1,000 times before. Maybe I just expected too much of it. But what about you? Did you like this episode? Anything that bothered you? Now that Rainbow Dash is a Wonderbot, where will she go from here? Let me know in the comments. I am Tricky Fox. Stay foxy.
Sly as a fox, you got me under your spell. But you know I'll never tell that I know you know so well. Sometimes you can be too smart for your own good, and you just